wonderful things today, and most of what I'm going to say will reflect very much so on all the things that have been shared so beautifully by everybody. Our children are suffering. Our children are suffering because they're anxious. I describe anxiety as a lack of emotional confidence in our ability to make a decision or to deal with some possible outcome that we're anticipating. It occupies our feelings and thoughts as if it's a demonic presence in our mind, and it distracts us from being able to enjoy the only moment of life that we knowingly can, the present one. And it makes us waste the limited amounts of time and energy we have in our life. Right now, anxiety disorders amount to 20% of the adult American population. Our children are suffering even worse. Right now, in America, 45% of 15 to 25-year-old females have a diagnosable anxiety disorder. And the remainder of these statistics are just atrocious. And we can do something differently about that. Unfortunately, they're being tormented and tortured. And they're distracted up in their own minds because we're not educating them quite the right way. Unfortunately, our children are anxious because we have tried to convince them that pursuing intellectual success, eating from a wonderful, beautiful tree of knowledge, as we were warned about 8,000 years ago, to be the best athletes and artists and engineers and scientists will make them revered and earn them money so they can have what they want, so they can be happy. But I can look around this room and tell you that 20% of you in this audience have anxiety disorders. And the reason we probably have anxiety disorders is for the same reason. We were all raised the same way. And our children will continue to suffer if we don't do something differently. But whoa, there's a solution here. There's a beautiful, beautiful other tree that we were encouraged to eat from, bountifully from, I believe. That tree represents the tree of life, and on that comes our ability to communicate with one another, our ability to have faith in our fellow man and one another, our ability to empathize and feel what each other feels, and our ability to sacrifice for one another. Those are the tools that make humanity great, not our egocentric ones that define our successes in American populace. Now, I'm going to present to you a list I made for my daughter. About 2 years of age, I think she was when I created this. I sat back one day after going through a fairly difficult childhood. Not terrible, but enough so that I asked myself, who is it I want my daughter to be someday? And I started listing words, looking for antonyms and synonyms and things like that. And I came up with this list that was not organized this way. But then as I started searching a little bit deeper, I found out that this was inherent to all of us. Ask yourself this: is there anything on that list you wouldn't want your child or grandchild to be someday? Is there anything on that list your child can't be? Is there any other animal in the world that cares about any of those things? Not even your most dearest pet. And I can tell you, or ask you, why are we not teaching that in schools? Something is terribly wrong with our educational system. Anxiety disorders now are tearing our culture apart. We're watching generalized anxiety disorder, social phobia, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, all things that we all recognize in friends and family members. Let me ask you, how anxious do you think you'd be if you felt this way about yourself? And it's built in. All we have to do is help these children access it, and we're failing. Anxiety, as I described to you before, is a lack of emotional confidence in your ability to make a decision or to deal with some possible outcome. It occupies your feelings and thoughts and distracts you from being present, making you waste these two resources you can never get back: time and energy. Now, there are 5 different sources of anxiety I hope you will all recognize as true to yourselves. I'll go through these one at a time. We think we're so brilliant. the amazing amount of possibilities we've created for us to be happy in this world. My mother went to the grocery store, and it was fairly easy for her to choose amongst Jif, Skippy, and Peter Pan in the grocery store aisle. That's what my wife faces when she goes shopping for our family. ABC, NBC, and CBS were fairly simple for me to choose from as a child, but now there's 500 TV stations. The amount of time and energy that we are spending distracted by those types of feelings and thoughts, what a waste. Believing it's going to make us happy? How about our future perceptions? Yes, we are really that brilliant. We are so brilliant, we've created so much to worry about. So many things to occupy our consciousness, to fear and to dread. How often is an expectation for something wonderful ever quite as good as you can build it up to possibly be, knowing the possibilities that we've created? 12 years ago when I went on vacation, and I imagined myself lying in the sun, getting some good loving from my wife, drinking my hand, relaxing in the sand, and I got the runs and it rained the whole time. Oof. The disappointment that I felt reminded me at that moment I will never again have an expectation. And I've learned so not just for my own personal accomplishments, but as well for other people, because I found myself constantly disappointed by that. How often is an anticipatory fear, something that you've dreaded or feared, ever been as bad as you built it up to be? Well, remember, we weren't given the ability to predict our future. We can't do that. We can plan, though. We can plan to be joyful in life. I think if you reflect back on that list of words, you recognize a joyful life versus a happy life. The third form of anxiety that we face are our past burdens. How often do you find yourself distracted by regret, remorse, guilt, shame? Why did I do that? I should have done this, I could have done that. Not recognizing that we are the only animal that knowingly can store our pasts. We're aware of time and energy. We can store past knowledge in our subconscious mind and access it any time we want to plan our own future. But we can't change it. I heard someone mention earlier the power of forgiveness and what forgiveness can do to help us move forward from our past, as I've learned myself. How about this source of anxiety in our life? Relationship difficulties. How often do we find ourselves distracted by frustration or disappointment or resentment or anger or animosity, where now we're not just angry, we're looking for reasons to be angry at one another. And we step to contempt, where now we're not just looking, everything someone does makes us angry. And you end up in the emotional hell that is hatred. Allowing that to occupy your feelings and thoughts? Are we crazy? The last source of anxiety I see devastating our children right now, and it's not something that I had to think about when I entered the adult world, but I find this delay amazing. For any of you who have young children right now, remember that 30 is the new 18. 30 is the new 18. You want your children to learn how to use that list of words to be effective, loving people in this world? It's going to take 30 years, the way our society is right now. I've told my daughter that herself. That lack of love of self, certainly, we'd all love our children to feel positive and optimistic and confident and secure. We're training our children, hopefully, to be considerate and understanding and patient and kind and gentle and loving people. But without that first column of words, imagine where your feelings and thoughts go when you have to make decisions to do the others. Anxiety is a beast that I think mindfulness can help. What exactly is mindfulness? Mindfulness involves taking your awareness in the present moment, what you're doing, feeling, and thinking, and think about that. That's where you put every single bit of your time and energy in life. Mindfulness grounds us in the present moment, helps us gain self-awareness, improves our well-being and our cognitive focus, and actually allows us to find more joy and less anxiety in life. It will allow us all to have our children have better emotional regulation. How beautiful would that be? I'm going to give you some examples of some exercises that I've written up that I would love to see implemented in schools, and there's no doubt everybody in this audience should feel the same way. Imagine a simple exercise like this after children say a Pledge of Allegiance, if they still do in school. Very simple. Children to say this: each and every day of my life, I will use my physical gifts to be productive. Each and every day of my life, I will use my emotional gift to be at peace in all my relationships. And each and every day of my life, I will use my spiritual gift to guide me to make decisions to fulfill purpose. Now, I understand that a 6 and 9 and 12 and possibly a 13-year-old might not ever understand why they're asking for productivity, peace, and purpose, but I do recognize that most, by the time they were 17 or 18, would have had to stop and ask themselves, why am I asking for productivity, peace, and purpose in my life? Well, ask yourself, when you're being productive, you're at peace, and you're fulfilling purpose, you have to be in the present moment. How about, I've heard this mentioned many times, imagine a gratitude alarm going off overhead at least twice, if not 5 times a day. Over a PA speaker, a unique chime goes off, ding, and when you hear that chime, faculty and students stop what they're doing, think of one thing they're grateful for, and go back to work. Who would not want their child to express gratitude? Why are we not teaching this? Here's a great one. I said to you earlier that the love of self is something I see lacking in these children. They don't feel positive, optimistic, confident, and secure when they're entering the adult world. So let's just choose a word from that list. And everybody's favorite toy, the cell phone. Imagine taking the cell phone. My phone says joyful right now on it. But I give this exercise out all the time. Edit a picture, make it your wallpaper on your phone. And every time your phone is activated, every time you push that button, every time you receive a text, all you have to say is, please help me be positive. Not that difficult, and we're using the technology right now, and it's destroying us. We could use it for something much wiser. Now, something I've worked on for a long time, I'm going to present to you, and it's a complex image, and I apologize for the complexity of it, but I can tell you it's available to you in the back of the room if you want it. But remembering that there's only one moment of life that you can enjoy is really important, the present one. What if I offered all of you in this audience a commodity in your life that was so valuable you couldn't live without it? And I gave you a certain amount at birth, and I said, this is all you get. You can't have any more of this commodity, but you're going to use it in each and every moment of your existence. And when it's gone, you're going to die. You want to be pretty careful with that valuable commodity. Well, is that not what time and energy are in our life? Born in the world with only so much. Use them every moment. Can't create more of either. And when they're gone, so are we. And every single bit of your time and energy goes into only 3 things: what you're doing, feeling, and thinking. That's why these are our manifestations, our actions, our feelings, and our thoughts. I find it even more interesting that we, as humans, have these unique abilities. We're not only conscious, awake, and alert, we happen to be aware of the impact time and energy has on our life. In other words, we're aware of what we're doing, feeling, and thinking in any given moment if we decide to be present. Not only that, the other unique ability, we can freely choose what we'd like to do, feel, or think next. Why do we not choose to enjoy each moment? Those 2 abilities come to us from our unique physical gifts, which is the way I approach patient care. Your physical gifts allowed you to live anywhere and eat anything. Can you name one other animal that can do that? That exposed us to a unique opportunity that no other animal has. We get to choose, knowingly, who we want to love and express our feelings to with awareness. No other animal knowingly gets to choose who they want to love. They rely upon the scent of estrus in the air or a display of feathers. Not you and I. We can choose the characteristics and traits of a partner we choose to love in this world. But I can tell you, at the start of this, we had no idea how to do this. We were provided a 3rd gift. spiritual gift that provided us guidance in our awareness of thought. And that knowledge, not just instinctual, not just intellectual, but intuitively made humanity prosper. With that physical gift, we were encouraged to be productive. With that emotional gift, we were encouraged to be at peace in all our relationships. With that spiritual gift, we were guided to make decisions to fulfill purpose. That's why those are agreements we should make with ourselves every day. I can tell you that a mindfulness message wouldn't be complete if I didn't give some obligations to work on. The first of those obligations is to promote awareness. And awareness is not just of what you're doing, feeling, and thinking, but the awareness that you can knowingly challenge yourself. If you don't like what you're doing, feeling, and thinking, don't forget, you can freely choose to do, feel, or think otherwise. You got to be patient as you learn how to develop your physical, emotional, and spiritual gifts. It doesn't come at once. My physical peak long since passed. Kind of in my emotional peak, and my spiritual peak has yet to come. But I can tell you that I'm going to do my very best to honor my three gifts as best I can. And I'm going to honor my physical gifts to remove the suffering I create for myself in life by being certain to rest, nourish, and challenge my body. My emotional gift, my awareness of my feelings, is certainly beautifully relieved if I love myself, my friends and family, and society appropriately. And how cool is it? How cool is it that our spiritual gift built that in, as I showed you on that list of words when we started. Having faith that that guidance is available to you, and to whom you bestow credit providing that guidance, that's up to you. I know I was given the ability to freely choose for myself, and that is not a judgment we need to make of one another. We just need to spend a little time having faith in that guidance and acknowledging it. As I put this list of words back up, I will again ask you, is there anything on that list you don't want your child to be someday? And is there anything on that list they can't be? Why don't we start teaching them that now? Thank you.